Okay.
Alright, we're live.
Only for Dora. Okay, great.
Live.
So are you gonna come sit with
Thank
me?
you. I'm live right now.
Okay, so come sit with me.
Somewhere else.
I'm betrayed.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. It is so good to see you again and to be back here. And since we are in the month of Iyar, which is filled with national holidays, Yom Ha'atzmaut, the Day of Independence, and also we are coming to Yom Yerushalayim. So I thought of studying together prophecies concerning the redemption and especially about the establishment of the State of Israel. So, first of all, what prophecies do you know that have to do with the redemption in our times?
The ingathering of the exiles.
Beautiful. Kibbutz Galuyot. Okay.
Too far ahead.
Gog and Magog, we are going to talk about. Well,
We're kind of in the middle of it.
Well, it depends.
Well,
According to some people, yes.
Gog and Magog, there is a view of a Rabbi Lapian who says that Gog and Magog was actually World War II.
Yeah, I heard that.
There's all kinds of interesting proofs about that.
I heard it was the War of Independence.
What?
I have
The War
no
of
clue
Independence?
where in the
Well,
world someone gets the idea the War of Gog and Magog is over. It hasn't even...
But I didn't hear the view that it was the War of Independence, but if it is World War II, so it could be good because that it means that it has been over and we've passed that terrible war. So
Let's hope that's the case.
right. And which other prophecies?
I think there's I forgot who said it, but like the fruit will grow.
Right.
Will grow back, like in the land.
Beautiful. So Yador is you're talking about the fruit. We're going to talk about that momentarily. Remind me your first name?
Pinchas.
Pinchas, right. So Pinchas, he told us about the kibbutz galuyot, that all of the exiles are going to come back to the land of Israel. So actually, we are going to talk about both of these prophecies, and just some short background is something that in my opinion is mind-boggling. So if you look at source 1, Mark Twain, the famous American writer, he actually went on a voyage to the land of Israel back in 1866, and he reported his accounts and everything that he went through in his book Innocents Abroad, which was published in 1869. So we are going to read together some of his impressions from the land of Israel. Okay, and this is very important background to understand the prophecies that are concerning the redemption. So, who would like to read the first source?
I'll go for it.
Go ahead.
Land of Israel, 1866. Mark Twain. The further we went, the hotter the sun got, and the more rocky and bare, repulsive and dreary the landscape became. There was hardly a tree or a shrub anywhere. Even the olive and the cactus, those fast friends of a worthless soil, had almost deserted the country.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, what impression does Mark Twain he find in the land of Israel?
Empty, barren.
That's right. It is desolate.
Desert, yeah.
Sounds
And
like hell almost.
that's right. It sounds terrible, and matters.
We're waiting for you over there.
Okay.
The gesture is up there.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome. Okay, great. So we are in source 1. In the source 1, we are talking about the prophecies concerning the redemption, and we just read the impressions of Mark Twain, who visited the land of Israel back in 1866, and
What a class.
his impression was that the land of Israel was at that time a barren, desolate place. If there's an extra page over here if anyone needs.
Does anybody need paper? Do you have one? There you go. Now you do.
Okay, great. So, welcome everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming. As I said, we are talking about the prophecies concerning the redemption. And soon we are going to get to the prophecy about the state of Israel, which is extraordinary. But first, Hidor and Pinchas mentioned the two very important prophecies. Hidor mentioned the fact that the prophecy that the land of Israel is going to give its fruit. And now we're going to try and understand why that prophecy is so significant. Okay? So we were talking about Mark Twain's a voyage to the land of Israel back in 1866, and his first impression was that it was desolate, barren, there was nothing there, and now we are going to come to when he came to Jerusalem. So who would like to continue with the words, at last?
At last, away in the middle of the day, ancient bight of wall and crumbling arches began to line the way. We toiled up one more hill, and every pilgrim and every sinner swung his hat on high. Jerusalem, perched on its eternal hills, white and domed and solid, massed together and hooped with high gray walls, the venerable city gleamed in the sun. So small, why it was no larger than an American village of 4,000 inhabitants, and no larger than an ordinary Syrian city of 30,000. Jerusalem numbers only 14,000 people.
Thank you. So this is extraordinary because we are looking at a report that didn't happen that long ago, and now, Baruch Hashem, in Jerusalem, almost a million people. Okay, that compared to 14,000 people, it is incredible. And it's so small, he says, no larger than an American village. And now Jerusalem is expanding.
For the capital of the world.
That's right, and there are skyscrapers.
Everywhere.
So much
Right,
that
right.
much of land is
Right.
being questioned about whether or not it's terms on the 14th or 15th day.
Right? And you know that I don't think that a Mark Twain would have believed it at that time that there would be a light rail, a train in Jerusalem, and a high tech. He didn't know what high tech was in those days, but industry and the prices of the apartments. Jerusalem of gold, right? Yeah.
It's more like the gold you have to pay.
You have to be a millionaire to buy an apartment here in Jerusalem.
I think the
Right?
population of Israel
Right?
doubled in the last 40 years or so.
Perhaps even more than that, because what he is talking about only 14,000 people. And as we said, there's a skyscraper, it's like the one just over here at the bottom of the street. And they're gonna build more. Don't worry.
A lot more.
Yeah. Right. So, Baruch Hashem, as it says, Yerushalayim shel Mala, right? So, and then when he talked about at the beginning of that, the land of Israel is barren and it is desolate. Look at these days. If the fruits, if the vegetables, if the export, we even export potatoes to Ireland. Ireland is the place where they have the potatoes, and the fruit. The whole world is the whole world looks for the beautiful Jaffa oranges that they come from here. So everything is extraordinary. They were able to grow a fruit here that is better in its quality than the fruit anywhere in the world. And when he talks about how undeveloped the land of Israel was in those days, so he never dreamed of a Kvish 6. Hey, Kvish 6, they are still developing it, and it is going to go all the way up north, and there's going to be a train to Kriyat Shmona, and there's going to be a train to Eilat. It is going to be extraordinary. Whatever, all the what?
We need a train to Tzfat, direct Jerusalem to Tzfat one day.
That's right. I agree. There must be a train to Tzfat. Yeah. B'ezrat Hashem, it is extraordinary to read this and then to receive the reality, the great change that happened. Now, who wants to continue? He is going to. This is his a summary of his a visit to the land of Israel. Palestine sits. Who wants to continue?
Palestine sits in sackcloth and ashes. Over it broods the spell of a curse that has withered its fields and fettered its energies. Palestine is desolate and unlovely. And why should it be otherwise? Can the curse of the deity beautiful land? Palestine is no more of this work-day world. It is sacred to poetry and tradition. It is dreamland.
Thank you. So, when he says that it is rivered and its fields and everything is desolate and unlovely, and in Baruch Hashem, we look at the country nowadays, and it is completely different than what he describes. So, how could you explain the change?
Nothing short of living prophecy.
Maybe the interesting thing is that he says it's no more of this workday world. It's sacred to poetry and tradition. It's dreamland. So it's like, not that it's just a metaphor now. Like the actual Eretz Israel isn't anything. All there is just like the idea of it, kind of.
That's right. So there is actually a reason why the land of Israel was so barren for 2,000 years. For 2,000 years, it was desolate. There was nothing here. And there is a reason. Soon we're going to read in a Parashat Bechukatai. Who wants to read his source too?
All right, it's me. I will make the land desolate, and your foes who dwell upon it will desolate.
Thank you. So there is a prophecy that the land of Israel is going to remain desolate. And so it was. And now the land of Israel, before the destruction of the two temples, was a very thriving place. Imagine the land of Israel at the time of King Solomon. It was the center of civilization. It was so blessed. And it was the center of everything. And then, after the destruction of the temple, when the nation of Israel left the land of Israel, was expelled from the land of Israel, so the prophecy was fulfilled that the land of Israel is going to remain desolate. And this is actually a blessing in disguise. Could anyone tell me why it was a blessing in disguise?
I think when the British came, right? Or someone came, they saw how like desolate it was, and they're like, we don't want this. We want this land.
That's right. The land of Israel is located in the most important trade routes in the whole world.
It's very loyal to us.
That's right, and it is very loyal to us. But all the great empires wanted to conquer the land of Israel. It connects between Asia and Africa. It is a very, very important location. So all the different empires have tried to conquer it, but no nation was able to stay here, to put a foothold here. There was no state ever in the land of Israel after the destruction of a Jewish state at the destruction of the Second Temple. There was no state. It only was a foothold for different empires, the Byzantine Empire, the Ottoman Empire, but there was no state here. Because it was barren, it was desolate. There were swamps here. Just 150 years ago, all the area of the Sharon and close to Petach Tikva, everything was covered with terrible swamps, with a malaria disease. People died here. It was a deadly place to live. I have to tell a personal story. My a great-great-grandfather lived in Poland, and he was very wealthy there. But he had a dream that something terrible is going to happen in Europe, and he decided that he has to leave Europe. So he sent his sons to the land of Israel to see it. And they came here and they had the same impression as Mark Twain, and they reported back to him, and they said, "Father, Palestine is not for us," because what they saw, it was desolate and there was nothing here. But my great-great-grandfather, decided that nonetheless, he is going to come here, and he's going to live in Israel. And he took his daughter with him, my great-grandmother, and they lived in Haifa, and he started off the first a bus company in Haifa, and he built the first house on the Carmel Mountains, and he was able to live here. But we could see, and that wasn't that long ago. It was before the Second World War. But even at that time, the impression from the land of Israel that it was a very difficult place to live. It was impossible to make a living here because it was so desolate here. Unfortunately, they stayed in Poland, and they perished in the Holocaust. But those who left Europe, despite the difficulties in the land of Israel, they survived. As I said, that there is a blessing in disguise, that the land of Israel remained a barren and a desolate for 2,000 years, and the blessing was that that there was never a state here. None of the other nations were able to build a state here, and that is so to keep the land of Israel for the nation of Israel. When it is time for us to return, the land of Israel is going to be waiting for us, and that is exactly what happened. Who could read, please, your source, your free, the Ramban, the Nachmanides? Thanks.
Ramban. And from when we left the land of Israel, no other nation received it, and they all tried to inhabit it, but without success.
Thank you. The Crusaders failed. They tried to build here some kind of a kingdom, but they failed eventually. The only thing that is left of them is the castles that are scattered around the country. However, all this changed. All this changed, as a Yador said, that something happened, that the land of Israel started giving its fruits again. And whoever wants to read here, source 4, this is the tractate of a Sanhedrin. This is a prophecy from Ezekiel. Who wants to read it?
Rabbi Abba also said, there can be no more manifest son of redemption that this visualization, what is said, now your son of man, prophesy to the mountains of Israel, and say, but you, O mountains of Israel, will give forth your branch and bear your fruit for my people Israel, for they are soon to come. Yechezkel 36.
Thank you, Ezra. So we could see over here that the the prophecy is that when the land of Israel starts giving its fruits again, this is the most significant sign of the redemption. And this started very close to the visit of a Mark Twain, just a few years before. The land of Israel started to give its fruits again. And then, yes?
I think it's related to like the Torah gave us like a background on how the people in Israel should be like gaining some harvest. Say in the time of Yaakov Avinu, when he came to Israel, even if I'm not mistaken, also this is part of the Israel where he planted like he harvested like double, like 100 something double.
Right.
Grains and
Right.
I don't know what he harvested.
Mhm.
Yeah. So this is actually how it shows that the land of Israel is very fruitful, and the Jewish
That's right.
people really has to cultivate it
Hmm.
as a mitzvah, of course, and make it habitation for everyone.
Thank you. Yeah.
Just gonna say, in retrospect, about what Mark Twain was
Mhm.
writing, if he would have come here and it would have been this lush paradise that he probably expected, it wouldn't have been such an incredible miracle to see, how it transformed from what it was in 1866 to what it is now.
That's
But
right.
the fact that it has changed, the population, the land,
Everything.
everything,
Yeah.
is nothing short of a miracle. So
Mhm.
we're seeing that, and if it would have been perfect, throughout all of history, we wouldn't have had that miracle, and we wouldn't have noticed, and wouldn't have appreciated it, I think.
That's right. That is a very good point. Thanks for sharing it. That's right. So there is a very big connection between the nation of Israel coming back to the land of Israel, and that the land of Israel starts to give its fruits again. So this is stated in the Talmud of Megillah. Who wants to read it? In a source 5.
Tractate Megillah 17b. What was the reason for mentioning the gathering of the exiles after the blessing of the years? Because it is written, "Now, you son of man, prophesy to the mountains of Israel, and say, But you, O mountains of Israel, will give forth your branch and bear your fruit for my people Israel.
Thank
For they
you.
are soon to come."
Right.
Ezekiel 6.
Thank you. So when the nation of Israel returns to the land of Israel, which actually happened very close to when the Mark Twain visited the land of Israel, that was really the beginning, but it especially was during the Aliyah Harishonah to the land of Israel in 1881. So, who would like to read here? What?
Can I
Yes.
just add
Yes.
to
Yes.
this?
Please.
I remember there's a story when the land of Israel is in exile, like it says in the prophecy itself. There's like other nations coming in here, living in here. They plant like something like, let's say vegetable. They plant vegetable. I just hear this news somewhere, and they accusing the Jewish people, that they poison the land because when they plant something, it's not growing anything. Like let's say they plant carrots, it's not
Interesting.
growing, or maybe it's growing but it's tiny,
Mhm.
and this is not what they wanted.
Mhm.
But when the Jewish people come in here, like what Rob Lisman said earlier, even in the desert,
Hmm.
there's like carrots, plenty, a bunch of carrots, bunch of potatoes. So I believe the land itself
Hmm.
wants the Jewish people in here, and
That's right. There's actually a very interesting example about that. Everyone knows that. That's right. Gush Katif, please, you tell us.
Yeah, Gush Khalifa was, I think, the biggest, or was like some settlements together in the Gaza Strip, nowadays Gaza Strip, and they got, how you say it, die wurden aufgelöst, dissolved in 2005, and there was like Israel invested a lot of money. There were, I think I read, 1/3 of the cherry tomatoes from the whole land of Israel were grown there, and there were
lettuce as well.
so many vegetables and fruits and so many money invested there, but they have to leave the settlement, and the state gave the land to the Arabs, and nowadays it's desert, it's dead, it's nothing.
It's wars there.
Yeah,
Beautiful. That's right. After the disengagement, as you were said, all of the greenhouses stayed there. And the intention was that yeah.
Sorry, just wanted to ask, did the Arabs try to use the greenhouses?
Yes.
To grow
Yes.
vegetables?
And the remarkable fact was that the same Palestinian workers who used to work for the Israeli settlers there in the same greenhouses, after the disengagement, they weren't able to grow almost anything. The same workers, they did the same thing, right? But the blessing was removed because of the land of Israel just gives its fruit to the nation of Israel. So this is a remarkable. This is something that only happened a few years ago. It isn't something that happened a century ago. We could see it in our days. So,
Can I ask a question?
yeah, sure.
Because we basically every day we learn about 1948 and 1965 and all those important dates for the Jewish people. But we don't, not only at Machon Meir, but in general, in schools I've heard it as well, people don't talk about so much about the first Aliyah, which was religious people. They came to the desert, they founded the Rishon LeZion and Petah all these places over there, Bnei Brak. Why we don't study much about them, or what's there is not so much to learn about?
Secularism, probably try to leave it out.
Yeah.
Well, it is. People think that Zionism just started with the Zionistic movement, but it is not true.
Yeah, that's the point. It was much.
That's right. At the time of Gaon mi Vilna, the Vilna Gaon, he understood that there is going to be something very special, a very a greater development in the land of Israel at the 1840s, because it says in the Shir HaShirim, הניצנים נראו בארץ וכל התור נשמע בארצנו. voice of a turtle dove is going to be heard in our land. And Hator, in a Hebrew letters, is Hey Tafresh, and that was 1840.
It's 1840.
1840, right. 1840. So he sent his students to come to the land of Israel, and they settled here. One of his greatest students, Rabbi Mishakolov, Rabbi Israel Mishakolov, who wrote the Pe'at HaShulchan. He has got an extraordinary introduction to his book where he tells about all of the different hardships that he had here. Really, Mesiras Nefesh, so like his children died because of the sickness that was here, and he had to fight against the Arabs. It was very, very difficult, but he remained strong, and he decided to stay here, and they founded a Nachalat Shiva in the center of a town, and next to Jaffa Road. There's a Nachalat Shiva. That was one of the first neighborhoods that were built outside of the Jewish quarter, and it was very dangerous to live there because there were bandits and there were wild animals. Like, it is difficult to imagine because nowadays it's the center of town, right? If you go back, it's just like 150 years ago, it was very, very scary there but it was so dangerous. So, as you were mentioned correctly, that Zionism didn't start at the that's right. Way before it, the Gaon Mivilna. Yeah.
Was the goal to establish a Jewish state or just to settle here and be? I don't know.
They just came here to live, right? They started
Well, it's a very good question.
At that time, the state was too ambitious of an idea.
Yeah.
That's right. But it's a very good question, what you said. And there is a book called Kol Hator, The Voice of a Turtle Dove. It is a Kabbalistic book that most of it is very difficult to understand, but there is an English translation to it. But in the book, it actually explains the Kabbalistic philosophy of the Gaon Mivilna, and he understood that the redemption of Israel is very close. And it was close. Very close. Just 40 years afterwards, it was the first big aliyah of the thousands of Jews who came from Russia and Yemen and all kinds of other places. And according to the Vilna Gaon and his students, one has to actively start the redemption. It is not going to start by itself. You really have to make some action. And if you come to the land of Israel and you hold on to it and you try to build it, so it is going to start the whole process. That was his Kabbalistic philosophy, and he was right. Because of their determination, because that they started the process of the redemption, and they paid a very big price for it. because their family members died, they got sick, if there was poverty, if there were bandits, it was terrible here, but because of their determination, so it actually started the whole process of the redemption. So it's a very good question what you asked, and it is.
We should
So
focus more on this part of the
that's
history
right.
as well. It's very important. Very, very important.
That's right. That's right. And this it is extremely important what you said, because that, and it also really shows that the Zionistic movement didn't start from secular Jews. It actually started from the.
religious Jews, yeah.
That's right. That's right. It is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it goes
Yeah.
back even to the Inquisition. The
That's
expulsion
right.
from Sfarad, the expulsion from Spain. There were not
That's
many,
true.
but there
Mhm.
was a number of Jews that, after the expulsion from
Mhm.
Spain, they just decided to come here and settle here. A lot of them Kubalim, and
That's
but
true.
even Bartanur also from Italy.
Mhm. Absolutely. Had a 1492, they left Spain, and some of them came into Tzfat, into Tveria. That is right. And even though Mark Train says that the land of Israel was a barren and everything, but there was always Jews in the land of Israel during 2,000 years. There weren't many. There was a time that the Ramban came to Jerusalem, and he said that there was only one Jew in Jerusalem, but two Jews. There were two Jews. There were two Jewish painters.
And 3 pianists.
Right. So okay, great. So we're going to continue here.
I heard in
Yeah.
1848 or something,
Mhm.
there was an earthquake in Sfat,
That's right.
and every single wall facing towards Jerusalem is the only wall that didn't fall down.
Ah.
The Kabbalistic reasoning behind it was because there was more yeshiva students in Sfat than there was in Yerushalayim. When Yerushalayim is supposed to have more than any other city in the world.
Could be.
Yeah.
At the time, Tzfat
So that we are here.
was a very important center. That's right. Now, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, he said something beautiful about the prophecy of Ezekiel, about the dry bones, the valley of the dry bones. Who wants to read it in Esau 6? Yeah.
It was the most haunting of all prophetic visions. The prophet Ezekiel saw a valley of dry bones. God asked him, "Son of man, can these bones live?" Ezekiel replied, "God, you alone know." Then the bones came together and grew flesh and skin and began to breathe and live again. Then God said, "Son of man, these bones are the whole house of Israel. They say, 'Our bones are dried up. Avda tikvatenu, our hope is lost.' Therefore prophesy and say to them, 'This is what the God says. My people, I am going to open your graves and bring you up from them. I will bring you back to the land of Israel.'" It was this passage that Naftali Herz Imber was alluding to in 1877 when he wrote in the song that became Israel's national anthem, Hatikva, the phrase Od lo avda tikvatenu, our hope is not yet lost. Little could he have known that 70 years later, 1/3 of the Jewish people would have become, in Auschwitz and Treblinka and Bergen-Belsen, a valley of dry bones. Who could have blamed for saying, "Our bones are dried up, our hope is lost"? And yet, a mere 3 years after standing eyeball to eyeball with the angel of death, the Jewish people, by proclaiming the state of Israel, made a momentous affirmation of life, as if it had heard across the centuries the echo of God's words to Ezekiel, "Veheveti etchem el admat Yisrael. I will bring you back to the land of Israel, and a day will one day come when the story of Israel in modern times will speak not just to Jews, but to all who believe in the power of the human spirit as it reaches out to God as an everlasting symbol of the victory of life over death, hope over despair. Israel has taken a barren land and made it bloom again. It's taken an ancient language, the Hebrew of the Bible, and made it speak again. It's taken the West's oldest faith and made it young again. It's taken a tattered, shattered nation and made it live again. Israel is the country whose national anthem, Hatikva, means hope.
Thank you.
I was
So,
actually going to ask,
yeah.
if we can say that the Holocaust has a similarity to the Valley of the Dry Bones, and Rabbi Sachs actually brings that up. It's interesting.
So, all of it, everything that we studied until now is actually just the introduction to our shiur tonight. Because the question that I would like to ask you is that we saw extraordinary prophecies about the land of Israel, about a kibbutz galuyot. There must be a prophecy about the establishment of the State of Israel, because the establishment of the State of Israel is the most extraordinary event which took place in the millennium. So it is only logical to suggest that such a monumental event should have been foreseen by our prophets. So is there a prophecy on the establishment of the State of Israel? What do you think?
Of course there is.
Of course there is. So
Micha.
that's right. So the question is, what is the prophecy of the establishment of the State of Israel? Now, all the prophecies that we talked about are known. They are famous, and everything that I said is not something new. But and now we are going to learn something that is not known to many people. So if everybody could please look at source 7, who would like to read the prophecy of Micha?
The prophet Micah said, "And you, Migdal Eder, Ophel of the daughter of Zion, they will come back to you. And the first government will arrive, the kingdom of the daughter of Jerusalem."
Thank you. So Micha, so the Malbim was a great commentator on the Tanakh. He lived from 1809 until 1879. He was Rabbi Meir Leibush Ben Yechiel Michael Reiser, known as the Malbim. He lived in Russia and in Romania, and he was also an expert on Hebrew grammar. And he is actually one of the greatest commentators on the Tanakh, because his commentary is deep, is clear, and it is very, very interesting. And perhaps I would say it is prophetic. For example, somewhere in his commentary in the Torah, so he says that there is going to be a time when Jews are going to call Berlin, Jerusalem. And then there is going to be a very big storm and destruction. This is what he says back in in somewhere between 1809 to 1879. So let's see what he says about the prophecy of Micha. Okay, this is very, very interesting. And he actually tells us that what we just read here, they will come back. They will come back to you. The daughter of a Zion, they will come back to you, and the first government will arrive. The kingdom of the daughter of Jerusalem. This is actually 3 different stages in the process of a redemption. Okay? So let's try and analyze it together. What are these 3 different stages? Okay? So first of all, what does it mean if the daughter of Zion, they will come back to you? What stage is this? What is the prophet trying to tell us? They will come back to you. Who will come back and to where?
Us to Israel.
That's right. We are actually talking about a kibbutz galuyot, that the exiles, the daughter of Zion, which is actually the nation of Israel, is known also the Gentiles, they call us the daughter of Zion. There's an ancient coin that it says on it, an ancient Roman coin, if it says Judia Capta, that there's a picture of a daughter of a Zion is sitting down, and it says there that Judah is captured because of the Romans, they issued this coin to symbolize the destruction of the temple, and that the Jewish state was no more. So the daughter of Zion is actually the nation of Israel. Okay, so the daughter of Zion, they will come back to you. They are going to come back to the land of Israel. So this is the first stage of the kibbutz galuyot. Okay, so let's see what the Malbim says in source 8. Who wants to read the first stage?
I can do it. First stage, Malbim. If exiles will start to gather, and the exile of Yehuda and Benjamin will return. They are called the daughter of Zion, since they were exiled from Zion during the destruction of the second temple.
Okay, thanks. So this is the first stage. Okay, now we are going to get to the most extraordinary stage. The second stage is actually, before I tell you what the Malbim says, let's just read it again in the source 7. And the first government will arrive. Okay, so we are talking about after Kibbutz Galuyot, after the nation of Israel returns. What is the first government that will arrive? What is the first government?
We have now.
That's right. The establishment of the state of Israel. It can't be anything else, right? The first government will arrive. The first government for 2,000 years, right? 2,000 years, the nation of Israel didn't have any kind of government, okay? The first government, 1948, right? 75 years ago. So let's see what the Malbim says. Source 9. Who wants to read a source 9?
I'll read it. Malbim, a small government shall be established, which will have a little government and leadership, similar to the time of judges before the kings ruled the nations of Israel.
Thank you. Okay. So actually, the period of the judges has got many similarities to the time that we are living now. One of the similarities is that there were times when when the judges were able to defeat the enemies. The Plishtim were actually one of the big enemies at the time, and Shimshon and Samson, he fought against them. And there were the Midianim who raided the land, and Gideon, he fought against them. So there were, it was a time that the nation of Israel lived in its land, had some kind of government, but it was under constant attack of enemies who lived in the land of Israel itself, also in the Gaza Strip. The Plishtim lived in the same place, almost the same places where nowadays the Palestinians live, and as we had trouble from them at the time of the judges, until today. So there are many different similarities. Also, but we have to say that Baruch Hashem, in our days we are in a much better position than we were at the time of the judges. But the Malbim is saying that a small government will be established. Okay, a small. What could it mean? It could be what power the government has to fulfill the national goals of the nation of Israel. The power is restricted in many different ways.
There was no UN breathing down our necks in times of
Right.
biblical times.
That's right. Okay, so this is actually the second stage. So the third stage, the kingdom of a daughter of Jerusalem. What stage is this? What do you think?
Time of the Mashiach.
That's right. This is a stage that didn't come yet, but it is going to come. B'ezrat Hashem, speedily in our days. And let's see what the Malbim says. Source 10, the third stage. Who wants to read?
Third stage.
Yeah.
Malvin. They will have a permanent reign, which will be the kingdom of David. Mashiach will be king and have a permanent sovereignty.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much. Now, this is something very interesting which I would like to ask you. Now, the Malbim actually teaches us the significance of the establishment of the state of Israel. He, of course, doesn't say the state of Israel, but he is talking about the first government, okay, the first government that is going to be established after Kibbutz Galuyot, okay. So he is actually teaching us that this is a very significant stage in the process of the redemption. The state of Israel is not detached from the kingdom of David. It is actually from within the state of Israel, the kingdom of David is going to emerge. And this is very, very important, a very important lesson for today. So there are dramatic implications for this. So if somebody could read, please, source 11.
Malvin, the kingdom of David will emerge gradually. At the beginning, it will only be on the level of a judge, and it will be elevated slowly until it be the kingdom of Hashem.
Thank you. There are three very important lessons that I would like to learn from what the Malbim is teaching us. And from this prophecy, this is a very important prophecy that is not only describing the establishment of the state of Israel and the kingdom of David, but it gives us a very important insight to how we should relate to the state of Israel. And there are three very important implications. The first lesson is that we must have faith in the potential of the state of Israel. We have to believe that in the state of Israel there is hidden potential to eventually grow to the kingdom of David. So this is very important to understand, that it is not going to be something separate. It is going to grow from the state of Israel. So this teaches us never to give up despite the difficulties. So when it says in the prophecy of Micha, and the first government will arrive, if it is actually teaching us that the state of Israel was never intended to be perfect at the beginning. Because like every new beginning, there are difficulties until there is an improvement. And as we mentioned, that the Malbim suggests a connection to a period of the Judges that was filled with moral, spiritual, kind of political complications. So we must never give up, despite the difficulties in the state of Israel today, because the prophet Micha told us already that this is the way it is meant to be. It is meant to be like this, but there is going to be some kind of form of a government. It is not going to be perfect. There are going to be challenges. There are going to be difficulties. But this is the second stage in the process of a redemption. And the third lesson is a long and slow process. The Malbim writes that the first government shall be elevated slowly until it gradually becomes the kingdom of David, which is going to emerge from within it. So patience is needed. And it is vital to understand that a significant process might take a long time. So, but nevertheless, we have to continue to um, articulate clearly the dream for the kingdom of David, and to work together to help the kingdom of David emerge from the state of Israel. So this is the prophecy concerning the state of Israel, and and with understanding the context, the big picture, so it is possible to understand the process of the redemption, and but how all of the different prophecies come together, and it teaches us not only about our history but also about our future.
Yeah.
Yeah.